It has been a long road and full of challenges. Being bilingual on graduation day has been one of my greatest achievements because I now have the tool set to go on reaching all the objectives I might set for myself in the future. A world of opportunities opened up to me when I started studying with Richmond Solution. I was really able to learn autonomously. I could study at home, in the library, or in the classroom. I could dive into the book, or by being connected to the internet, I could explore fascinating activities that empowered my English skills. I was able to instantly access the answers as they were only a click away. I loved working in a team. My friends and I had great fun as we learned. I learned a lot from them, and I know that they learned something from me. The exams were always challenging, but thanks to the practice that was constantly available on the digital platforms, we were fully up to speed to meet these challenges. I am really going to miss my school.
Richmond Solution helped us hugely to transform the English program in our school. We have now got the best tools to guarantee the best learning. Let me show you. Part of the process gives us access to a coach who builds our confidence, as well as training courses to better our abilities and to continue our improvement. Yes, good teachers are always keen to learn more. As we live in the cloud, as we say in this connected world, we have digital resources to improve our classes and which allow our students to learn from anywhere in the world, even quite literally in the clouds if they are on board an airplane. Through the Richmond Test Manager and Learning Analytics, we have a variety of possibilities to test, validate, and monitor students' progress. It is amazing to be able to see how your students are learning and to have the evidence of their learning at your fingertips. This really does make us very happy indeed. Richmond Solution is a solution designed for you.
Get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine, 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with all the beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out. I want to sing and shout. Take a look and see a beautiful morning that turns into a beautiful evening, and together make a beautiful life. And if you wanna see, then come along with me, that's right. And if you want a good tomorrow, it's pretty simple, gotta find a way to follow. And if you do, you have a future real bright. And it's a combination of consistency. Come on and say, oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. With another sunrise, it's a brand new day, so gonna make a little list to keep the worries away. I gotta dance just a little bit, move to be free. Keep my head up, don't forget to be me. Like I won $1 million, like I hit the pay dirt. Gonna smile from ear to ear, the kind that makes your face hurt. And we'll laugh, jump, sing loud.
Dear teachers, colleagues, head of studies, principals, good afternoon and thank you for joining us. It is a great pleasure for me and for Richmond to introduce our first speaker today. Her presentation combines two practices known to have a positive effect on learning English in a foreign language setting: project-based learning and extensive reading. Our speaker is a bilingual educator and the creator of English in a Flash, the breakthrough vocabulary building software that helps struggling students learn the vocabulary they need to achieve in the classroom. In addition to 11 years of teaching experience, she holds a PhD in second language acquisition and teaching, specializing in how people learn second languages. Since 2003, she's the National Education Officer for Renaissance. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a welcoming home Dr. Carol Johnson.
Thank you, Juliana. It's so nice to be here with you today. And I'm so excited to just share this presentation with you. So you can see on the screen that the title of my presentation is From Learning English to Using English. And I chose that title after really thinking about what it is all of us hope to get out of a second language or a foreign language that we're learning. Now, in my case, you can tell that I'm a native English speaker. but my second language is French. And all of the things that I wanted to get out of French, I believe are the same things that you want for your students in terms of getting out of English. And what that means is, how will they be able to use English in their futures? And so that is really how I framed this presentation, thinking about that. It's kind of a goal we all have when we are learning language. So I decided to break this presentation up into 4 topics. A very brief introduction, a little discussion about project-based learning, another explanation of extensive reading, and then I decided to put them together in a project plan so that you could see how you could do this with students in your classroom using 𝗦on as a digital platform with books. So let me start. As I said earlier, to me, this is the goal of language learning. And specifically with project-based learning, we are really honing in on the goal of being able to use the language students are learning. And when we say that, we mean for careers in the future. That's the whole benefit to, in fact, using the technique of project-based learning in the classroom, because it ties directly to the goal we have for our students. And our students today are really fortunate because given the type of technology that's now available, they in fact can have opportunities to use their English through technology all over the world in almost any career they imagine. And that is such a benefit that we want to take advantage of for our students who are learning English. So first, I want to find out about project-based learning. But before that, I believe Juliana has a question that she would like to ask everyone. Is that true, Juliana?
Project-based learning.
So actually, I can't hear. I'm sorry. So I'll ask the question, how many of you, because I couldn't hear what was being said, I apologize. How many of you are familiar with project-based learning or already use something like that technique in your classroom? Consider that as we move through this presentation. So what I want to do is start off with a basic understanding of what project-based learning is, what I'm referring to when I say that term, project-based learning. Because to me, project-based learning is outcome-focused. It is the ultimate in taking students from learning English to using English. So generally, project-based learning incorporates activities beyond the input of reading or listening to learning, practicing, applying, and evaluating with respect to the content that they're talking about. So this really means it's not just taking in information, taking in language, but it's that taking that further to the productive skills of taking it from the receptive skills of listening and reading to the productive skills of speaking and writing. For me personally, I find that one of the common challenges of implementing project-based learning is the issue of comprehensible input. And so I guess I have a question for you once again. How do you handle this issue of comprehensible input? Is it a challenge for you as you develop project-based learning activities for your students? Keep that in mind as we move through this presentation. So here, to me, is the information that's really important to know about comprehensible input. And I think that we have to state up front that comprehensible input is more than just input. It's not just listening and reading. It's input that we understand when we hear it and read it. And the reason that matters goes back to what Stephen Krashen has said for the past few decades, that we acquire language and develop literacy when we understand messages. That is, when we understand what we hear and what we read. And having an understanding of this need for comprehensible input is critical to providing students with the language you want them to use in their project-based learning. So let's move from our first topic, project-based learning, and now ask you, how many of you are familiar with extensive reading as a technique in the classroom? So you can, I'm thinking you can put those questions in the chat, which, as you know, I can't see right now. But that's what I'd like.
They are seeing it right now, the
Oh,
question.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you. It's the first time I could hear you. I'm sorry about that. So anyway, keep that in mind, because I'm going to go now to extensive reading and talk about first, what is it? So I've really simplified from the research, because I think that too much research is just overload, where what we want really is to go from research itself to the application of it in the classroom. Therefore, I've distilled this research into this first slide for you. So extensive reading, what is it? What is it? Well, it's actually reading that's done in or out of the classroom. It's usually longer texts or books. It's reading at the right level with comprehension and a lot of it. So think about how that would contrast with, say, the intensive reading we sometimes do in the classroom, where we are looking word by word at grammatical structures in a text for, let's say, verb tense or part of speech, etc. This is a contrast to that. This is, in fact, for the purpose of good input. So again, it's at the right level, it's with comprehension, and it's a lot of it. So then what's the benefit to it? And I think it's important then that we know what it is that the benefit is. So the benefit, according to research, is that extensive reading provides an effective and promising way of developing foreign language abilities. It leads to more language. That's what that says. And it develops good reading habits that build up the knowledge of vocabulary and structure. That in itself tells us this is going to lead to more language, and more language leads to better abilities to do project-based learning, and that leads to the ultimate ability to use the language you're learning, in this case English, in a foreign language setting long-term in a career. And that's our goal. We never lose sight of the goal. The second thing is, the research tells us what we need to know about what we provide our students in terms of extensive reading. So the research tells us that reading comprehension improved when students were able to read just above and just below their current language ability. So a little bit harder, a little bit easier. It also tells us that students who listen while reading have actually better outcomes. It seems to be more effective than simply silent reading. So you can see this is very current research, and I think it's really a wonderful thing that this gives us the opportunity to take this research, digest it, and then apply it in our classroom in an extensive reading activity. And in this case of what I'm talking to you about today, I'm combining it with project-based learning. So I kind of want to move from these topics to, okay, what does that really mean if I want to design an activity for my students? So here's what I did. I decided to just choose the theme of dinosaurs, because in this case, I was imagining students who are probably in elementary school. And from that theme, I'm going to show you the plan that I put together, and then how I execute that plan in the classroom. This is my project plan. You see I have the theme, it's dinosaurs. I have resources. I've picked 4 books that are my own books about dinosaurs. I've done that first, that's going to be my input. I've then moved to what do I want them to do in terms of learning and using language along the way to prepare for the outcome that I want. So in terms of learning projects, I have 2 graphic organizers for examples to show you and a poster I want to show you. And then that is going to turn into the outcome product that I want my students to do, and that is I want them to do a presentation to the class. Finally, what I've done is I've listed the language skills that will be involved in this plan. They will do all 4, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And I've listed here 2 grammatical points that I decided to highlight, the past, simple past tense, and similes. Now, I do want you to know you could choose other things, but I just chose these. You could go much more communicative and talk about descriptive activities, descriptive output, things like that. You could take it further and have them do more extensive writing, but this is what I've decided to do for this sample. So I need to start with my resources. And 𝗏𝗏𝗀 books are digital books, but the important thing about them to share with you is that they are in fact authentic materials, which means they are books that are read by native speakers of English. They are not books written for language learners. They are authentic. So this is kind of an interesting concept to present in terms of using books like this with students learning English in a foreign language setting. But I want to show you then how these work really well with students learning English, again, foreign language setting. And we know this because they've done this all over the world now and using this methodology. I'll even share that with you. So here are the books I chose, and these are the book covers. And again, my focus is to provide students with input at the right level. It means can't be too hard, can't be too easy. Okay, it has to be at the right level. And on the screen, you can see I have numbers with an L listed left to right across the screen. And I'll just take a moment to share with you that that is something that is a reading leveling that 𝗏𝗏𝗀 does with its books to tell teachers what level it is about this, that it is for the student. It's called a lexile level. So Velociraptor is a lexile 190. Diplodocus is 220. Brachiosaurus, you can see moving left to right. In people who already use 𝗏𝗏𝗀 a lot, teachers who already use 𝗏𝗏𝗀 a lot are familiar with what that leveling means. And I'm not going to focus a lot on that in this presentation, although if you have questions later, please ask, and I'm so happy to fill them in to answer them. What I want to focus on is now showing you what does a book at that level look like. Now I'm going to show some screenshots from the books. So this is the first one, Velociraptor. And the most important thing I want to share with you is that the students hear and read these books at the same time. So remember the research that I shared with you that extensive reading is even more effective when students listen to and read at the same time. And that is right off the bat, that is the input that you get from these books for your students. I also will share with you that I did not know how to pronounce Velociraptor until I heard the book because it's not a word that was in my vocabulary. However, if I loved dinosaurs, I would probably know that. So this is one of the first screenshots that I want to show you. This is from that book. And the first thing I want to do is bring your attention to the upper left corner of the book, that blue speech bubble that I have up there. And that's because these are the 3 steps I'm asking my students to take with this book. Number 1, I'm asking the students to listen to and read the book. In fact, there are 4 books, right? I showed you 4 book covers. Number 2, I'm asking students to highlight unknown words. That means words they don't know. And I want to share with you that through all my years of teaching, one of the very first things I learned is that I could never predict for sure which words my students knew and which words they didn't. I only knew the words I taught them, and that just was not a good predictor at all. So that's why letting students highlight the words that they don't know yet is a really good personalization and use of a tool of this digital book. The last thing I'm asking students to do, so you can see I'm asking them to do 3 things here, is to create their own personal dictionary, also using a tool. So as an example on this page, I have highlighted the words I believe my students may not know. I'm guessing, right? And then entered them by typing it into that My Dictionary that I created. It's just a simple type in, one-step process. Now, it is also possible, because these words are cognates from English to Spanish, that they know all these words. But I did that just as an example to show you. And again, I want to remind you that this is not looking at this page. This is hearing and reading at the same time. So, for example, the student would hear dinosaurs were reptiles. Snakes, crocodiles, and lizards are reptiles that live today. So let's go to the next page, which is right here. I did something else on this page. This is, you can see, I went from page 5 to page 6. I actually added one more task for my students. I asked them to tag with a little Post-it any information that they think they might want to use in their presentation to the class. Because remember, the students will know the outcome they are going for in this. This is not them just waiting for us to give them step by step with no idea what the outcome is. This is in fact helping them understand the outcome and then the steps to get to that outcome. And the outcome for this is that class presentation. So let's look at another page. This is, again, same book, and I've highlighted the word turkey. I've added that to my dictionary, okay? And I've even typed in the sentence in there, because as a student, I may think, wow, I really would like to remember how they used that word, particularly as they used the simile as big as with it. So all of those things are totally up to me, the student. What is it that I need to remember that I will remember better if I highlight it, write it down, etc.? The one other thing is I've seen lots of students actually in parentheses put the word in the native language. And they have every ability to do that with this tool. So I wanted to share that with you before I forgot as we moved on. Let's go to the next book. This book is, again, similar to the previous book. So you'll see the structure of it as we move forward. Oh my gosh, look, that same page introduces this book too. So by this time, the students have already spent time with a book that uses this exact same page. This is now a building of knowledge and language from the previous book. So this will not be brand new. And this is the time, again, where if students don't remember words for sure, add those words, highlight those words, do whatever you want to do as a student to help you build this vocabulary. In this case, again, the students are now noticing what they would like to include in their presentation to the class. So this is up to the student because they've been given what is the goal of this that you're going to do at the end of this. So here I put in a Post-it note, I highlighted plants. Maybe the student knows it, maybe the student does not. If they already know it, there's no reason to highlight it. But the information about this dinosaur ate plants is really important to collect because, again, this is a real life presentation that we're working towards. Same book. Notice on this page, I've not highlighted anything because at this point, these may be high frequency words that the student is familiar with. The as, heavy as, the simile is going to repeat through these books, which is also very helpful in terms of repetition of grammatical structures. But again, whether or not anything is highlighted or tagged, Post-it noted, is up to the student. Next book. It opens up the same way as the previous book. So each of these is building. Again, the Brachiosaurus had long legs. The student has not highlighted anything. No need to. The student knows these words. Or if not, the student would. In this one, I've highlighted building. They may or may not know it. It depends on how early in their language learning they are. But notice again, the simile is the same grammatical structure in there. And it gives a really good sense of how this structure is used. And the student will become very comfortable with this grammatical structure because of the constant repetitive input. Brachiosaurus had a very long neck. I could have put a Post-it on there. I just didn't get it done. I can always go back and do that, and that's the same thing for my student. Excuse me. The last page on all of these books is, in fact, information about where these dinosaurs bones have been found in the world. And notice that fossils is used there. Now, I haven't highlighted fossils. My student may already know that word, may not, but I've highlighted other information that I think the student may want to collect. In this case, it may be easier to just highlight than tag it with a Post-it note and type it in. But again, students are really bright. They learn really quickly what is most useful for them. Triceratops. This one I highlighted the word frill because that's an incredibly low frequency word, and I just don't believe that's on any vocabulary list anywhere. The nice thing is it's tagged with that picture and it tells you what it is. Here I highlighted horns for one reason. It's not that I didn't think that students wouldn't know the word horn. I thought that they would probably know it in terms of a car horn or a musical instrument, but I wasn't sure that they would know it as a horn on a dinosaur or on an animal. And so that's the reason I highlighted it, for that less frequent use of the word. And again, I added it to the dictionary. Here I actually highlighted fossil, just in case. I thought, well, maybe the student read this book previously. Maybe they've done them in different order. I'll highlight it here just in case. But this is the part that I really like about these books, because notice through the simple, clean, repetitive grammatical structures, you're building language at an amazing rate. And this seems like no big deal. But I want you to know that this is actually now a definition in English for a student using words that he or she has learned moving through these books. And I don't know for you, but I remember clearly the point where I went from a bilingual to a monolingual dictionary. It's an amazing feeling. And while these students will not be ready for that overall, they get a sense of that along the way. What does that look like? And I think that's really important in terms of perspective moving forward, because this allows students to see where they're going. And it reminds me of that video that came on right before I came on, where the student talks about the opportunities she gets because of the language she has built. So those are the books that I chose for resources. What I want to do now then is go, okay, the student has read the books. Now I want to turn from the book pages to, in fact, what they do with that information along the way in this project. So I told you early on that, do I have a question now, or did I miss one?
No.
Well, if there are any questions, you can put them in there for me, just in case.
Yes.
Just in case I forgot something. So this now is an example of the graphic organizer that I created for the students, and in using Myon again. This is a tool in the Myon digital book product. I lost the term there. But at any rate, I did that, and I separated out into this by dinosaur type. So this is Velociraptor. I put that in there. I asked the students to write sentences about this dinosaur so that they could then start to collect this information for their presentation. I did ask them to use sentences to be realistic. You know, they can copy the sentences from the book if they want, or they will have memorized them as input, because it does come so many times and it's auditory and visual at the same time. They may make mistakes in their writing, of course, but that's not the point here. Obviously, I wrote it and I'm a native English speaker, so that was very simple for me to do. But I wouldn't expect always students to do it absolutely like a native speaker, because that's not a realistic expectation early on. We all know that. So I want to share with you that you will get different versions of this from your students, but they will all be good because they are building towards that presentation that comes at the end. I did one other example with the Brachiosaurus. I gave an example here of a student using both present tense in it has versus the next bubble says it was. I did that intentionally because depending on what level of English language proficiency your students are at, there may be a conversation about the present tense being used for a generic discussion about state, overall state of something versus it's in the past. And that all depends on where your students are and what you need to do with them. But I wanted to raise that issue just in case, because I wasn't sure the range of students that you have in your classrooms, and I didn't want to leave anyone out. So from that, in fact, this is actually a poster. Imagine this is a poster that I created the outline of and filled in. But what I imagine this as a poster that in fact your students could create very simply. And all I did was put a table on it so that the information could be filled in the different spots as students went through the books and then the graphic organizers, and then use that to fill out this poster. Because I can only speak for myself. I know when I'm doing a presentation, it helps a lot to have some visual support when I'm, presenting to an audience. And I think students are like that too. It helps a lot, both for the presenter and those who are in the audience, to follow along, especially if this is a group of students who uniquely chose dinosaurs and the other students chose something else. So other students in the class will not have collected this information, and this is the opportunity to share in writing also what it is they're talking about as they're explaining orally to the class. And finally, then, I think the important thing is that we show how we get to that outcome product where it is a presentation to the class. And so you can see here that all I did was fill in that table. Now, I was able to copy and paste, because of technology, the pictures of the books and put them up there, which I know that your students are much more advanced technologically than I am. I guarantee you that. So they would do amazing things, but they could draw, they could do whatever they chose to do. But here you can see that this is in fact the visual aid that helps both the students who are doing the presentation and the audience as they work through what they want to tell the class about what they learned. And to me, that is the ultimate in using language. This is not learning language anymore. This is using language. And there is nothing to me more rewarding than being able to use a language that we work so hard to learn. The other thing I wanted to show you that I thought was interesting, because I didn't have any knowledge of these dinosaurs prior to this, is that the row that shows teeth, only one of the dinosaurs mentioned the types of teeth that they had in the books. And I thought that's interesting, because if students were really asking deep questions, they could ask, why not? And it's easy to make the leap that, well, the dinosaurs where they didn't mention the teeth eat plants, therefore they must not need sharp teeth, where the dinosaurs who in fact have sharp teeth eat small animals. And it sounds kind of silly to bring that up, but in fact it leads to really a depth of conversation using English that, for me as a language learner myself in French, I would not have had another way. Well, I don't have a way to do this at all, and I would never have had a way to do it along the way as I was learning without this kind of tool and this kind of project-based learning, and combining then the extensive reading opportunities with some kind of digital book like 𝗏𝗏. And it isn't that there aren't digital books out. There's lots of wonderful digital book opportunities, but these are back to the reason these are really terrific, I think, is that they are back to the issue of authentic materials, because those books I showed you are books that are used by native speakers. And you can see the outcome of language is so much different for any of us when we have the opportunity to engage with native speakers. It's a completely different outcome. And I know it was for me for French. So before I wrap up, I thought through this, and I thought, that might have looked like a lot of steps. Maybe it's more complex than I could really do in my classroom. Was I just, asking teachers to do something that just was more than was reasonable to ask. And so I tried really hard to simplify this to make it something that I think you could do with your students without putting a load on you that's so heavy. So it really is a 3-step process. The first part of the process is just getting the resources and deciding what students are going to do with them. So in this case, it was select books, have them listen to and read the books, have them highlight unknown words, have them create a personal dictionary, and meaning add the unknown words to that personal dictionary, and then take some notes. All of that can be done in Mayan, every single piece of it. So it means you don't have to personally create something for your students in that first step. In the learning projects, when I move to that second step, now the notes from the first step are moving over to the learning projects. And those notes are what are used to complete the graphic organizers and to fill in that table. So you can see how one feeds the next. Okay, now I did create the graphic organizers, no question about that. However, it took me more time to fill them in to give you examples than it would for you to create them. Just want you to know it's that fast to create. And the table, certainly all I did was created a table on a slide as an example, but students could easily do that with, on the computer with a poster board, however they chose. In fact, probably a poster board is really terrific for a classroom presentation, although depends on the level of technology, what you can show in front of your classroom or not. And I know here we have classrooms that have complete technology versus some have none. So in the United States, so that's just, that depends on your classroom. But then notice now that filling in the table feeds over to the project outcome. So all of these are one leads to the next in a very seamless sequence. Now the table is filled out, and now the table is the visual presentation for the class. And because the students will have done so much work with comprehensible input, with listening and reading, and then also already practicing the writing from the note collecting, from the highlighting of words, from the personalized dictionary, from the graphic organizers to the filling in the table, that will actually feed over so that they will then find it easier to talk about this topic when they do the presentation for their class. And, for me, that's just the ultimate. That's what we all want when we're learning a language. We want to go from learning English, if that's the language we're learning, and that is the language we're talking about here, to using English. So I just want to thank you for the time today with you, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments or anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol, for your presentation. So now you can read any of the questions that our colleagues has left in the chat box.
Actually, there's, so my limited Spanish.
Here you have, if you want me to read, Silvia Rifo is asking, how could we adapt this kind of activity to virtual classes to be sure our students are reading?
Oh, good question. Good question. So actually, what I didn't put in here because, it's a time constraint, but I will share with you, this can all be done virtually. Absolutely 100%. But there's another thing that comes with Mayan books that's an important thing so that you know that students are getting that are understanding what they're reading is actually the books follow with quizzes. And I think, especially in a virtual setting, it's really important that you have a way of verifying that they understood what they read so that they can, in fact, move forward with this kind of project-based learning and extensive reading. But this actually can completely be done virtually. Absolutely 100%. No problem. And if somebody wants me to spend time going through that, please give my email and I'm happy to answer that, or you guys can filter it through for me.
Yes, thank you. We are going to let them know about the email. We already write the email there, support@richmondelt.com. So they can, yes, for further information, they can contact us. Here, I'm checking questions. So they are really happy with your presentation. Thank you. Great presentation. Thank you so much. Let's see. More than a question is an observation. Alexandra Ramos Caseda, she said, you can use this activity with different reading and make a reading comprehension and complete that chart at the final of the class, at the end of the class. Yes, she's saying.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, what I was hoping was this would be an example because you know how we teachers are, someone gives us another example, then we run it through, oh, well, wait a minute, I could do that too. So I knew these were teachers, so you know, that's how we function as teachers. Someone else gives us an idea and we run with it.
Okay. Any other questions? Maybe from, okay, thank you so much. Awesome presentation. Thank you so much.
Wash hands, yes.
Wash hands, yes. Thanks a lot for sharing such an interesting ideas. Excellent presentation. Some of the books in Mayan does not have quizzes at the end. It's sometimes that has happened to us here in Colombia with the platform.
That is absolutely correct. Some of them do not. And my observation, doesn't mean it's 100%, but my observation is that it's usually when they're the books that are so short, as a general rule. Unless you're talking the really high-level books that are the classics, those sometimes don't have quizzes too. But if we're talking a lower-level book, sometimes there's just not enough content in them for questions. There's like, but that's my observation. I couldn't be wrong on that too. I can answer that PhD question. That one I'm spotting.
No. That is internal. That is internal private chat. Sorry. Asking, what criteria or indicators will you use to assess these fantastic projects?
You mean would I personally, if this were my class?
Yes, I guess.
Oh, okay. Okay. So how would I assess whether or not, first of all, I would assess whether or not they had done all the steps along the way. Okay. And the second, because asking anyone who's not used to it to do a presentation in front of a whole class is a very scary thing. So I personally would be very, very binary in terms of how I would grade it. I would be, yes, they completed the steps, and I would be very non-judgmental on the language, grammaticality, and all of that, because it takes so much courage to step up and do something productively in a language we're learning that, I'm a real believer in the affective filter. And the more opportunity we give students to do this work without heavy judgment, the more they will do it and the better they will get at it. So that's my own personal philosophy. I've also been in situations where I personally have been through very painful grading myself of my own second language. So I do know what that's like, and it's usually left me going, oh, please don't make me speak in front of the class again. So.
Oh, thank you. Well, I have a question.
Sure.
Internally. What do you think about using Mayan aligned with social studies, for, PBL purposes for social science, and it fulfill the standards like STEAM standards and next generation science standard?
I love it. I love it. I think the trick to picking books to support standards, and Mayan has all kinds of books for that, just so you know. The trick is, candidly, less than the Lexile level is take the Lexile level as just an overview of, okay, it should be in that range, but then you must open that book and look at the text. I'm not saying every page, but you have to look at that book and get a sense of, is that a text that the student would have a chance to understand without just looking up every other word in a dictionary. So, but Mayan has great books for that. And I actually have done other presentations for science. I have not done a social studies yet, but I have done multiples for science.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Silvia is asking, is formative assessment more advisable than summative assessment?
Well, they're two different assessments, right? So summative is at the end of the semester or the chapter or the school year that says, okay, you've mastered this level here. Formative is for feedback to the teacher, so the teacher can learn from the student, how's the student doing, and then adjust to guide her teaching from that. So they both matter. Here's the thing. One is actually in the application of the classroom. The other is the accountability of what's happening, meaning usually to administrators.
Thank you. I think we have time for 2 more questions. See if there is another question inside of the chat. Okay, they said, yes, affective filter is important. And what others activity learning techniques and strategies we can use in the virtual classes?
Well, so I'm going to tell you my bias, okay? And I say that because much of my personal journey in understanding how language is acquired has come from failure as a student and as a teacher. So therefore, the research that I am incredibly deep in is what does it take to overcome that? And whether it's virtual or in person, the biggest challenge for a foreign language setting is getting enough listening input. I mean, that is the biggest challenge. I don't care what the setting is, virtual or classroom, in person. And so finding, something like 𝗦í𝗴𝘂𝗂𝘀 is really critical, because with that, you can control by suggestion to your students the level of input they're getting in terms of helping make it comprehensible. It's not that students today can't hear English anytime they want on YouTube. They can, but it's not always at a level that they understand. And we know from the research that, to get to a level where we actually function, can function professionally long-term, means we have to have enough vocabulary built in from input that we understand. And that's back to that. It has to be comprehensible. So that's why for me, the setting isn't nearly as important today as it used to be. It's that input. Comprehensible.
Here we have, we'll have 2 questions more. How can students select the right books when they have not been assigned by teachers? These books,
okay. Well, the first thing is they can, with 𝗦í𝗴𝘂𝗂𝘀, they get to go in and, well, they can go through a library of books, but that's not a very efficient thing to do. Let's be honest. What they can do is choose a general topic. Like if you want dinosaurs, let me say that. They can go in and they can look for books about dinosaurs. But the best thing about 𝗦í𝗴𝘂𝗂𝘀 is it actually starts off with a test that to find out about where students are in their English. Okay, so that in itself helps inform what level the students might want to look at. What I have seen in countries around the world, though, where they're using 𝗦í𝗴𝘂𝗂𝘀, is that students, once they know the topic they would like to look at, they're very good at opening books and realizing, is that a book that I think I can read or not? And if not, they go to the next one, until they find one. But the teacher really is the easiest way to guide it, besides the assessment that starts off. 𝗦í𝗴𝘂𝗂𝘀.
Okay, the other question would be, 𝗥𝗲𝗱𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀, it seems to be a long process, but at the same time interesting, about the previous question. So I just want to know if it's possible to give more than one project outcome related to the theme.
Oh, sure. Sure. That is absolutely, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, and the last one would be, how can we engage students like to read? From Carolina Davila.
Okay, so my experience is the best way to get them to want to do it is to make sure you give them something that is A, interesting to them, meaning their topic, to be totally honest, we're all kind of like that. And make sure you open the book. Again, I can't overstate, if the book is, if you think a student can read that without a dictionary, Seriously, without a dictionary, then that's a great book for that student. If you think, and there is a dictionary on there also they can use. I didn't show that. But if they have to use the dictionary over and over and over, that book is too hard. There's nothing fun about reading with a dictionary. I mean, there's just not. Reading with a dictionary is a word-by-word translation. And that's not fun. So that's why finding a book that's at a level a student can manage, even if they need the dictionary from time to time, is the key about a topic they want to read about. Okay, so I won't read that many books about dinosaurs, as you can imagine, because that's not my favorite topic, but I know lots of little boys who love it.
Indeed, yes. They love dinosaurs, yes. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us. Thanks to all the teachers and everyone who was here in this talk. Thank you, Mr. Carol, for your time.
Thank you so much.
We're going to have a break, and we will continue in 10 minutes for the next talk about just too easy and sparkling use of technology. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
We will have a brief break, and then we're going to continue 6:05. We will start with the next talk. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us.
It has been a long road and full of challenges. Being bilingual on graduation day has been one of my greatest achievements, because I now have the tool set to go on reaching all the objectives I might set for myself in the future. A world of opportunities opened up to me when I started studying with Richmond Solution. I was really able to learn autonomously. I could study at home, in the library, or in the classroom. I could dive into the book, or by being connected to the internet, I could explore fascinating activities that empowered my English skills. I was able to instantly access the answers as they were only a click away. I loved working in a team. My friends and I had great fun as we learned. I learned a lot from them, and I know that they learned something from me. The exams were always challenging, but thanks to the practice that was constantly available on the digital platforms, we were fully up to speed to meet these challenges. I am really going to miss my school.
Richmond Solution helped us hugely to transform the English program in our school. We have now got the best tools to guarantee the best learning. Let me show you. Part of the process gives us access to a coach who builds our confidence, as well as training courses to better our abilities and to continue our improvement. Yes, good teachers are always keen to learn more. As we live in the cloud, as we say in this connected world, we have digital resources to improve our classes and which allow our students to learn from anywhere in the world, even quite literally in the clouds if they are on board an airplane. Through the Richmond Test Manager and Learning Analytics, we have a variety of possibilities to test, validate, and monitor students' progress. It is amazing to be able to see how your students are learning and to have the evidence of their learning at your fingertips. This really does make us very happy indeed. Richmond Solution is a solution designed for you.
Get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine. 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with all the beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out. I want to sing and shout. Take a look and see a beautiful morning that turns into a beautiful evening, and together make a beautiful life. And if you wanna see, then come along with me, that's right. And if you want a good tomorrow, it's pretty simple, gotta find a way to follow. And if you do, you have a future real bright. And it's a combination of consistency. Come on and say, oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. With another sunrise, it's a brand new day, so gonna make a little list to keep the worries away. I gotta dance just a little bit, move to be free. Keep my head up, don't forget to be me. Like I won $1 million, like I hit the pay dirt. Gonna smile from ear to ear.
It has been a long road and full of challenges. Being bilingual on graduation day has been one of my greatest achievements because I now have the tool set to go on reaching all the objectives I might set for myself in the future. A world of opportunities opened up to me when I started studying with Richmond Solution. I was really able to learn autonomously. I could study at home, in the library, or in the classroom. I could dive into the book, or by being connected to the internet, I could explore fascinating activities that empowered my English skills. I was able to instantly access the answers as they were only a click away. I loved working in a team. My friends and I had great fun as we learned. I learned a lot from them, and I know that they learned something from me. The exams were always challenging, but thanks to the practice that was constantly available on the digital platforms, we were fully up to speed to meet these challenges. I am really going to miss my school.
Richmond Solution helped us hugely to transform the English program in our school. We have now got the best tools to guarantee the best learning. Let me show you. Part of the process gives us access to a coach who builds our confidence, as well as training courses to better our abilities and to continue our improvement. Yes, good teachers are always keen to learn more. As we live in the cloud, as we say in this connected world, we have digital resources to improve our classes and which allow our students to learn from anywhere in the world, even quite literally in the clouds if they are on board an airplane. Through the Richmond Test Manager and Learning Analytics, we have a variety of possibilities to test, validate, and monitor students' progress. It is amazing to be able to see how your students are learning and to have the evidence of their learning at your fingertips. This really does make us very happy indeed. Richmond Solution is a solution designed for you.
One, two, three, four, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing 5, 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with all the beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out. I want to sing and shout. Take a look and see a beautiful morning that turns into a beautiful evening, and together make a beautiful life. And if you wanna see, then come along with me, that's right. And if you want a good tomorrow, it's pretty simple, gotta find a way to follow. And if you do, you have a future real bright. And it's a combination of consistency. Come on and say, oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. With another sunrise, it's a brand new day, so gotta make a little list to keep the words away. I gotta dance just a little bit, move to be free. Keep my head up, don't forget to be me. Like I won $1 million, like I get to pay dirt. Gonna smile from ear to ear, the kind that makes your face hurt. And we'll laugh, jump, say loud.
Dear teachers, colleagues, heads of studies, principals, good afternoon or good evening, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to our second talk for our Richmond conference. It is a great pleasure for me and Richmond to introduce our second speaker today, who is going to talk to us about the sparking creativity across curriculum. Opportunities for learners to unlock their innate skills that motivate learning and provide teachers with easy, simple steps to educational technology mastery. Our speaker has over 15 years experience working with governments and schools in 49 countries, developing systems and use of technology in teaching and learning. Born and educated in London, England, he is an instructional technologist, professional development consultant, and the director of Just2Easy, one of our Richmond partners, a leading British educational technology company. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Mr. Alastair Cameron. Alastair, you're mute.
Great start. Hello, everybody. And Juliana, thank you so much for inviting me here to provide this presentation. It's a real pleasure to be with you, even at the late hour that it is here in London at just gone 11 o'clock in the evening. So please excuse the tired eyes. I normally look like this anyway, so that's enough of the excuses. My presentation today, and hopefully you can see my screen now as well. Juliana, just let me know if that is the case. That you can see my screen.
Yes, yes, we can.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Juliana, you did a wonderful job of introducing me, and I heard the introduction earlier on at the end of the last presentation of sparkling creativity across the curriculum, and I think that's a better title. I much prefer sparkling creativity to just sparking creativity, but the idea of my presentation to you all is to provide some tools that will enable you to develop an innate sense of desire to showcase and to try and to create new ways of learning right across the curriculum. 𝗥𝗲𝗱𝗲𝘀 is a company born out of the UK. We have won many global awards for our online tools, and we are absolutely delighted to be partnering with Richmond and Santillana across all regions that they operate. And thank you once again for the opportunity to celebrate that partnership of 𝗥𝗲𝗱𝗲𝘀 and Richmond here. We've won awards, including the very prestigious BET Award here in London for best tools for teaching, learning, assessment, and creativity in and out of the classroom. And our tools are designed to support learners across the curriculum, not just in any particular subject, but in every subject. So if you here are sitting here with your English teacher's hat on, please do feel free to share the ideas and inspirations and content that I'm delivering here with other colleagues in other departments in your school. But because the focus is on English and reading and writing today, I am going to sort of make sure my presentation is fixed around the concept of English and language and writing as a whole. But I would like you to keep in mind all of the other subjects too. So what do I mean by sparking creativity? Well, 𝗥𝗲𝗱𝗲𝗀𝗀 provides a wide range of tools to support students in their writing. And when we think about what we ask our students to write and why we ask them to write, these are some of the things that always come to mind. We like our children to be able to develop their language, their vocabulary, and their skills and experience in writing through things like poems, newspaper reports, plays, experiment write-ups, all sorts of reasons why we would like our children to be able to write. However, not all children are either motivated or able to write without significant support and significant help. And, you know, when we ask our children to write with detailed descriptions and to be able to get the children to be able to, you know, put themselves into the position of a character or get them to write about the things that we would like to get them to write about, it's often something of a really significant challenge for a lot of children. So how do we get our children to be better at this? You know, quite often the simple fact of the matter is that children only use basic sentences and don't provide very much detail in their writing. And we would always like them, whenever we're reading the work that they write, to make it more interesting, to get out of the rut of being very bland and very basic, and to encourage them to be able to explore a larger range of vocabulary, to improve their vocabulary, to use more words, and to also be able to write solid descriptive sentences that do hold the interest of your audience. And this is what we do. Just Too Easy provides a lot of ways that children of all ages can develop and express their literary skills. And by the way, everything that I am doing in this presentation is all using Just Too Easy. There's no PowerPoint, there's no Office, there's no Pages or any other application. All I'm using throughout the entire of this presentation are the tools within Just Too Easy. So what I thought I would do is, using Just Too Easy, I'd give you some examples of ideas for improving your students' creative writing skills. And the first way that we can use Just Too Easy to do that is to provide an opportunity to write about things they know. And one of the great reasons here, I'm going to now dive in and ruin my presentation completely by going into one of the tools in Just Too Easy that will enable us to get students writing really easily, and we can encourage them to write about things that we know that they like to talk about in the playground, talk about in the classroom. I find quite frequently as well, things like Minecraft and Fortnite. But it's all well and good asking them to do that, but let's make it easier for them by promoting a scenario and a background to the writing. So here I could give them an example of writing about Fortnite, for example, but instead of just asking them to write about Fortnite, I could introduce some pictures into my document here. So here, I'm going to just quickly search for a Fortnite picture, and I'm going to drop it on the page here. And this is all just using Just Too Easy's tools. So here, I could give this to a student and get them to write about Fortnite using the image as the stimulus for maybe writing a story, describing a character. Or here, I could look for another image, and here I've got an image of Minecraft. So here again, I can drag an image in and start to ask them to write about Minecraft. Now, some of the tools here actually enable you to focus in on specific things. So we might want to just focus on one particular character and get them to perhaps describe that character, perhaps the adventure that they went on in their latest game and how they won their victory. So this is just one way to encourage children to write creatively. The second idea that I have using our tools is to provide a wide range of writing activities. Now here, I'm going to just pop into some of those within Just Too Easy to give you some examples. For very young children that are at the point where they're discovering vocabulary but are not at the point yet of putting sentences together or even having their typing skills, we can introduce some digital literacy through art, through creativity, through art, to be able to tell a story through images, either with a template in the background for them to start writing about and painting about using clip art. Let's use some wonderful rainbows in the background. So here I could maybe paint a rainbow in the background, or I might want to draw myself a little tree in the foreground here rather badly. So here I could, do some painting tools. Maybe I might want to put some grass in the background as well. So children can listen to a story that's been narrated to them either by yourself in the class or by other tools and audiobooks that you've been listening to. and enable children to develop and demonstrate their understanding of comprehension, and perhaps an opportunity to tell where the story is going next through their own creativity in a fun way. Now, one of the wonders of Just Too Easy like this is that whatever a student does in Just Too Easy, it automatically pops it into the student's portfolio. Now, what that means is, as the teacher, you will be able to see every single piece of work that your students produce, not just in digital form such as painting or writing, but also in video and audio form, and more on that in a minute. But for those students that are confident in writing and have their own digital skills for motor skills to be able to start typing, we have tools that enable children to start to write. And here we can enable children to change the colors and the fonts, and also, as I was mentioning earlier, to be able to narrate their own stories. So here we have an opportunity for children to be able to write their story and narrate it, which gives you the opportunity to listen to their pronunciation, and also an opportunity to provide feedback, formative feedback to your students within this tool. And for students that want to perhaps put a storybook together, students have the option to create digital storybooks of their own rather than just reading stories within Just Too Easy. So here I could drop a picture of a rainbow in and maybe do some more scribbling here, but I can also tell my story by once upon a time I saw a rainbow, and then add further pages to my storybook as well to create a fabulous book, which could be a book combining pieces of work that children have done from all ages and abilities. So you could have some students doing the artwork and some students doing the written work and combining that all together. And you could have a book created across different classes where students are combining and collaborating on the different phases of the story. How I like to use this particular feature is getting one class to write one section of the story on one page, and then the next group of students in the next class get to take the story to the next level, and so on and so forth. Okay, so those are some of the tools to engage students in writing. But if you want to have some vocabulary practice, we also have some tools here that will allow you to practice your spellings. So here we can have some practice words. And what happens is, because it's in my headphones, I don't get to hear it out loud, so you can't hear it, but you'll have a native actor's voice speaking the words with context, and you get to the word here is kit, football kit. And once she's finished talking in my ear, I'll be able to continue. And the great thing is, as educators yourselves here, you can create your own word lists for your students to practice. And yes, you get full statistics that support intervention opportunities for children that are commonly misspelling words, and it'll even build a word cloud over time of the words that the students do find a challenge. You can actually have games, some really fun games of racing against other children as well. And you can see there are some children here already been playing quite well and are at top of the leaderboards around the world, which is absolutely fabulous. Okay, so those are some of the tools to improve children's creative writing skills through the additional tools of Just Too Easy. I'm still in edit mode. I must go back into presenting mode, but I'm going to pop back into edit mode now, because my next idea, number 3, was an opportunity for students to act out experiences or role play. So how do I do that in Just2Easy. It's a very simple process here. You could have provided your students with the Fortnite image or the Minecraft image or any sort of images that you wanted to set the scene for a role play activity. Instead of actually writing these things down, the opportunity to then record your sound. So here I've got either the opportunity to embed a video or record sound directly into my document so that my students can practice their pronunciation and practice their storytelling skills. I can record my voice. I can go as long as I wish with that and then pop it onto the page wherever I wish it to go. And once it's in there, it's then a playable file almost immediately for the educators to be able to assess, review, provide feedback on, to enable students to move forward and progress with their writing and speaking skills. The next idea I have for improving children's writing skills or digital literacy skills is to become a story character, to be able to set out some characters for children to put themselves in the minds of and to become. And simply put, you can do that very easily. I've already demonstrated some of these tools by dragging and dropping pictures of Fortnite in. Now, those were pictures that I'd actually got already, but I also have other ways of searching for them. Here, I have a picture of, I'm going to always get this wrong. This is either Arla or Elsa, and someone is going to correct me, I'm sure, in this presentation. So I could put a picture and ask for children to then write the story about how they feel about a particular emotion, or I could inspire some other students that are perhaps more into their Star Wars characters, and here I could introduce a strong character that a student may want to write about, or a fantastic set of literary pieces. You know, here we have Harry Potter. But if I wanted to, you know, these images are something that I've prepared previously. One of the wonders of Just2Easy is that I can search the internet, and so can children, as students using Just2Easy, search the internet to find images safely that are appropriate, that are right for use, and most importantly, are copyright free. So here I can search for Harry Potter. I'm now searching the internet, and it will enable me to use particular images that I might want to use in my writing. And you can search for any image that you like. It'll always find one. It'll find a minimum of 100 images for you to use off of the internet. So you can guarantee that your students can use the internet, build their digital skills whilst they're using the internet to create their stories. And also you can guarantee that they're not going to be finding inappropriate images to do so. Now, one of my favorite, and this is my final idea for improving creative writing skills of your students, is blogging. Learn to blog. And here, within Just2Easy, we provide a built-in blog. Now, if any of you have had the misfortune of having to set up a blog, either for yourself in a personal respect or for students, like me, you will know how quite a challenge that is. It does take a lot of setting up. We take all the pain away from doing this process of setting blogs up for you, because with Just2Easy, there is an automatic class blog and there is an automatic blog for every single student and for every single teacher. And we celebrate the writings that take place on those blogs, because within Just2Easy, you'll have a map of all of the blogs that are going on around the world, and you can pop in and see them if you would like to read. But for those of you that are not too sure, what is a blog? Now, if any of you are using Facebook or are using Twitter and you get caught up and go down the rabbit hole with reading a website or a web page, more often than not, you will have come across a blog of some description, whether it is some writing about a recipe or whether it's writing about a fishing expedition or a bicycling expedition that people have gone on. Chances are that you will have been reading someone's blog. And some commonly known ones, some platforms for blogging are things like Mashable, Gizmodo, as you see the ones here, 𝗦𝗂𝗀𝗂𝗀𝗀, but also blogs for schools, such as 𝗦𝗂𝗲𝗀𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀 Primary School. So here, let me just drop off to the top of the screen here. Here is a blog by 𝗦𝗂𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 Primary School. And this is a Just Too Easy blog site where students are presenting their work that they have made within Just Too Easy. And you can see here, this is a geography activity. And these maps around St Ives is a small what's happening is a blog about a particular area of the southwest of England. But you've also got other blogs taking place here, such as space facts. So somebody has decided to write a fact about space and presenting their work. And so this one child, a couple of days ago, literally on the 1st of September, has created a mnemonic for their science project. And here we go, we've got some summer learning activities. So this is teachers and educators presenting the things that they are doing over the lockdown period. But also what you'll notice on these blogs is that there are comments. If I just zoom in a little bit here, this is a year 5, so a 10-year-old student has written this piece of work, but there is an opportunity for safe and appropriate commenting on these blogs, either by students or by teachers, or if it's appropriate and the teacher has moderated it, by anybody else around the world. So those are some examples of blogs. But the impact of children when they do this, when your students, put something on the blog and then it gets read by someone else, not only have you transformed that child from a writer for you, because let's be honest, how many times does your student get to write for an audience other than their class teacher? 9 times out of 10, the child will be writing for you, the teacher. But when does the child get the opportunity to do that on a much broader scale? Not only are you providing a platform for them to achieve that by using Just Too Easy, but the impact on the student is an incredible one. When the student first receives a comment on their work that's not from the teacher, the impression is this: oh, I quite like that. I'm pretty good at it. I'm going to do it again and better. And it keeps on progressing that way. And it just encaptures and enraptures the students into developing their own writing for a purpose now, other than for the purpose of reading it by the teacher, and providing an authentic audience of people to read the work. So blogging, it's absolutely fabulous for collaborative work, either in the classroom or beyond, where students can comment on each other's work and the students can provide that peer feedback, which is essential for progress. Blogging is great for special educational needs, where students can present work in a variety of formats than just a written text. When students can create their work and have a platform to present their work in audio, in video format, so that it can be listened to for perhaps students that aren't able to read. Blogging is great for developing skills for students that are at the beginning of their learning journey into being fantastic writers for science, for English, for geography, for maths. Blogging is a great opportunity for students who are highly talented and gifted, where they can take their learning to the next level and support others in their learning too, and to be celebrated for their own achievements on a wide scale. And blogging is fantastic for parental engagement too. What better way for parents to see the impact that you as educators are having on their children on a regular basis by reading the blog work that their children have been producing in conjunction with you, the educator, in the classroom. Now, blogging may sound like a step too far for quite a lot of people. It's actually very simple, as I will prove in just a minute. But I wanted to just reiterate that our blogging tool is provided with a wide range of lesson plans, with videos, and with examples to get started and to get going with it. But majority of the time, those lesson plans are quite quickly forgotten because teachers realize, educators realize around the world that we can continue our standard form of instruction without having to use Just Too Easy's lesson plans. We can just let our children be creative and see the progress that our students are making. And in terms of the progress that our students are making, remember I said earlier on in this presentation that students' work automatically gets sent to the teacher. There's no toing and froing with emails or, you know, dear miss, here is my piece of work. The students' work is always automatically put into a portfolio for teachers to see. Well, what we are super proud of, and this is the first time that we're able to mention it here, is that as I go as an educator into my students' classes and I pick up a student here and I want to see Eli's portfolio, for example, here I can view Eli's early writing, which is a piece of writing that Eli did with his painting and writing program. Hi, my name is Steve, Minecraft Steve. I like to watch the sunset. Well, that's fabulous. But what I want to do is assess his work and give him some feedback in an appropriate manner. One of the things that I wanted to mention was that all students' work can now be assessed on a rubric that we've included from the curriculum in Chile across all year groups. So if you see here, what you've got is all of the information from the dimensions of listening, speaking, and writing, etc., built in. But not only are they there for you to read, you can assess with a level of mastery. So on a simple basis, I can say that this piece of work that Eli has done meets that criteria, and I can just tick it. Or if I feel that it's also exceeded in that area, I can tick that one too. Which means that at a click of a button for one student or for multiple students, I can now assess each class's work using the curriculum from Chile, all in Just Too Easy immediately. And I can also provide a report with a spreadsheet for submission if that's required. So before I close, I wanted to think about what's next. You've mastered, as an educator, giving students digital skills with creativity from painting, writing, animating, and drawing, and blogging. What next? Well, one idea I thought of was quad blogging. And here, if you'll permit me, is a simple way of explaining what quad blogging is. So what is quad blogging? It's quite simply a process of a blog. But a blog is, rather than just having one blog for a few people to read, is to work in conjunction with many different classes, perhaps around the world or perhaps within one country. It's made up of classes of ideally 4 different classes in different places. And how it happens is by week 1, the first class is the focus school. The children in that class do the writing and all of the other classes read. And then we rotate. And the next week, class 2 is the focus school who maintain and writing a blog, whilst all of the other classes then comment and feedback. And then the loop goes on for the 3rd week, where class 3 is the blogging school and they write a blog and everyone else reads. And finally, class 4 gets their turn for the week of being the focus school and writing about something, and all of the other classes 1, 2, and 3 then focus on reading the work that that class has produced. So that's it, quad blogging. It really isn't rocket science. It's super, super simple. And what I would like to do is pose the question to you, because there are so many schools around the world that are making use of blogging within Just Too Easy's tools. Are your students ready to do that? Do you think your students would enjoy participating in a quad blog? Because if they are, if your students are ready to start quad blogging, we have a tool that can get you there immediately. And I work with classes all around the world that would adore finding new schools to take part in quad blogging activities. It'd be great to hear from you. But then you'd love to know where your audience is actually from for those students, for those comments and the feedback that are coming from other places. And it's quite fantastic, the volume of an audience that you can pick up very quickly. This is a snapshot of one class blog within Just Too Easy that took place about 6 months ago, just before lockdown happened here in England, where there were hundreds of visitors and some comments from all of these different range of countries. It was incredible. So there we have it. Just Too Easy in a nutshell should be able to spark some creativity in your students in a variety of ways across a number of different subjects. And it really is super simple. In fact, it should only take about 10 minutes for a school to get started with using Just Too Easy with their students. So there we have it. If you would like to have any further information from me specifically, you're very welcome to contact me on the details that are there, that will be available on the presentation as well.
Thank you, Alastair. Thank you for your presentation, for your time. So we are going to check some questions in the chat box. I already checked one that was done a while ago from Claudia Bustamante. She said, if you can please repeat the J2EC activities JIT for infants, please.
Yes.
Repeat them.
You'd like to have a look at those activities again?
She wants to know which one were, like the names.
Right. Okay. So shall I share my screen again? Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Let's do that again. Let's share my screen. Here we go. Okay. So the JIT tile, which is this one here, is the infant tools. And you've got 7 tools within there. It always starts off with the writing tool, where you can, if you wish, choose a template to write against. So you'll have a template in the background. So for example, I could write about my day at the lake. But you've also got 6 other tools here. You've got painting, where again you can use a template. But if you don't want to use a template, I mean, you can always use the template if you wish. But if you don't want to use the template, look, here you go. You've got these images that I've used previously. You know, you saw me use this one here earlier on. So here I can use a picture in the background, which can either be a photograph. So you could take a photograph of the student and get them to describe themselves. One of the fantastic presentations that's coming tomorrow is about social and emotional learning. So what better way to encourage your students to write than with feelings and emotions about how they're feeling at that particular moment in time. The animation tools are there as well, where you can do some really fun, simple things, such as animating to tell a story. Here, I'm just doing some basic onion skinning work with an animation tool, which could go on as long as you wish that to be. So here I'm animating a tool there. And then you've got the mix tool at the end, the black tool there, which allows you to create your digital storybook full of creations from either just one student or a group of students working together.
Thanks. We have here another question, Genaro. Is this platform suitable for preschool students, 3 years old, 4 years, 5 years old kids, more or less?
Yes, it is. And in fact, these tools that I've talked about here are very commonly used by children of that age range in kindergarten and preschool alike. And if you follow Twitter at all, Twitter is quite often full of examples of students' work at that age. And sometimes they don't have their own individual accounts, but what will happen is the teacher will just leave like a whiteboard on the screen and encourage children to come into the class during the day. And you know, I've done this before. I'll ask a child to come to the whiteboard to paint with a red crayon on the screen, or draw me a triangle, or write me a letter of the alphabet, or add a smile or a sad face on a smiley face to see how they're feeling at that particular moment in time. So yes, further to that though, what is really important to stress about this is that everybody has their own version of Google Drive, which is a completely safe storage facility within J2E, which means that if you want to use it as Just2Easy as a mechanism just to record a video of you speaking and narrating a story to your students, for them to sit and watch and rewatch at home at any time, you can do that by logging on to Just2Easy on your phone, recording yourself very quickly and instantly transferring that to J2E so that your young learners can watch you read a story to them.
We have another question from Leticia Magnolia. No, sorry. For Bori Torres, sorry. Can you use Just2Easy with inclusive students like Asperger, autism students?
Yes, I mean, obviously there's a wide range of particular needs that would need to be thought of and addressed, but there are lots of different ways that students could be engaged in activities if they weren't particularly keen on participating in a class discussion, for example. We see a lot of students with particular needs being able to express themselves in writing or in drawing and painting, etc., through these tools. I perhaps should actually deliver a specific webinar dedicated to the needs of special educational needs. Where I live, there is a school in London. There is a school in East London called it's Romford School. It was actually where I was born, and they have about 120 students with a wide variety of learning challenges. And they use Just2Easy not only to allow the students to learn, but also to document and evidence the things that they are capable of learning for the government requirements, but also to celebrate their achievements with parents that they wouldn't necessarily normally see because of the limitations of coming into a special school at any time. So yes, there's a wide variety of things, and if you'd like to get in touch, I'd be happy to directly about that. I'd be happy to show you more.
We have another question from Jenny. Jenny says she imagines that it's not only for children, like, I mean, for What is the audience will be the question.
Okay, so the range of the audience of people that can use Just2Easy is K through 12. I haven't touched on any of, so there are so many features of Just2Easy. I haven't really touched on some of the features for older students, such as the incorporation of writing tools with documents such as spreadsheets and presentations, which are all built in, all automatically saved, which means that your students can use Just2Easy as a Microsoft Office system, but also teachers can use it as a way to if you want to have the ability to run your reports and not have to have school access, you could put your reports on Just2Easy securely and safely, so that teacher reports could happen within the walls of your own home, because you can access this all in the cloud. And there's many other ways that it can be used as educators of older children, with whiteboard tools, with PDF tools. You can upload a worksheet directly into Just2Easy, so that your students can annotate on those previously uneditable worksheets. You can simply put a PDF into Just2Easy using J2 PDF, and your students can be writing on it and filling it in within seconds. So yes, in fact, in England we have A-level students, so those are post-16 students using our tools to complete their A-level studies.
Thank you. Here we have another question from Rosario Trebrejo. Help parents to be familiar with this in order to support their kids.
Was the question, how do we enable parents?
Her question is, how can I help parents to be familiar with this, with Just2Easy, in order to support their kids? For the parents during their using Just2Easy for their homeworks and in their daily life.
Yeah, okay. This is going to sound really, truly rather arrogant, and I apologize, because it really isn't meant to be. In order to support, as a parent, in order to support your child who's using J2E in their learning, the only thing you need to do is listen to your child, because they'll have been using Just2Easy within the school, and they'll have been using Just2Easy at home to take part in their own learning activities, which the teacher can automatically see. A quick orientation might be suitable, perhaps a letter home that Just2Easy is now available for your students, quickly followed by a sit-down chat between child and parent to perhaps explore the tools together. But even from kindergarten, your children will have very quick navigation of all of the features here, and show parents, and be very proud to show parents the things that they are achieving by using J2E. Or if you don't want your children to have, your parents, sorry, to have access to J2E, one of the things that you can do is simply send out a link, a private link from Just2Easy to your child's blog, meaning that parents on the go, wherever they are, at work, at the beach, on a train, they can simply go on their phone to that private link and see the activities that their children are doing. It's something you can do, you don't have to do, because obviously that's a decision for how often you as an educator, you want to communicate with your parents about things that your students are achieving. Okay.
Another question we have here that is from our coach. She's asking, sometimes teachers feel a bit overwhelmed with new tools, but I see Just2Easy is very user-friendly. So how long would it take to teachers to get familiar with Just2Easy?
Okay, well, thank you for that vote of confidence there. I think typically a teacher will need not more than a 10-minute video to have an overview of all of the tools. I've labored particularly on specific things today, which is why, you know, a 35-minute video would be necessary. A 35-minute seminar would be good. But what we would typically do is encourage teachers to watch a video of how tools are used, and that, you know, we are we have a help tile here also that gives you little 1-minute videos. So if you wanted to become familiar with the possibilities and the use of Just Too Easy through all these different tools, each one of these carries a 1 or 2 minute instructional video, which is all that's required really to get going.
Thanks. Ricardo Cordero is asking, the whole blogging idea sounds quite impressive. I guess it's teachers who are the ones to take care of the blog, right?
Yes, Ricardo, that's a really good point, and one that I should have made always. Now, every educator out here is probably thinking, my goodness, my children are writing comments on each other's pieces of work. What if they say the wrong thing? Well, we've got you covered. It's really easy to get this sorted. There is a tile here that you see on my screen called moderate, and currently it's telling me I've got one thing to moderate. We take all of the pain of WordPress out of your hands, and we literally say, look, you've got comments or posts awaiting moderation. Go and have a look at the comments. And it pops into, so here I can see the comment, somebody made the comment, and I can either approve or bin the comment, and I can see when that comment was made as well. So it's a really simple process of you ensuring that your students stay on target, that are staying appropriate, and not starting to have a massive great conversation about which character they're going to play on Fortnite next week, or when they get home, but they're actually talking about the work that you've been setting and is being put onto the blog. So nothing inappropriate will ever get past you.
I think that will answer also a Luke question, because the next question would be, this platform, could we control ourselves, or it is independent user for each user? So I guess you just answered that one.
I think so. Yeah, every single user has their own account, which we do with integration with the Richmond Learning Platform as well, to ensure that it's a very simple process of getting from one platform to the other. So it's a seamless system where you go from one to the other without having to switch user IDs, etc. So everybody has their own username and password. Everybody, teachers and students, have unlimited storage space here for videos, for text, for audio, for documents, and for anything that they want to store here, which is why everything is trackable. And you as educators have great reports, not only for the spelling competitions, but also not only for assessing student work through the Chile curriculum, for example. We can always include other curriculums. If you would like to have your curriculum from whichever country you are from, we are very happy to incorporate that in any language for any subject as well. But you also have some tools as educators to see visually how many times your students are logging on, and how long they're on for, and how many things that they've been doing as well. So you can have good trackability.
Okay, we're only going to have one more question. Hernan, well, this one I can answer for you. Is it possible to have the rubrics for our countries? Mr. Hernan, yes, it is possible. You can upload any framework that you want. But Leticia is asking how to motivate students with special needs, for example, TDAH or TIL, etc. Give me some examples, some tips, please, and thank you.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to have to run that as a separate session, I think. It'd be great to have, and I'm always keen to explore working with people individually. Juliana knows that I get very involved in working with the schools that you work with, because I do take it to heart and want to have meaningful conversations. And I think that would warrant a much deeper conversation than one that I could provide here, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you. So thank you for your time, and thank you to everyone for coming, for joining us here in this presentation. This is our last presentation of the day. For further information, you can write to our email support@richmondelt.com. Thanks to attending to this second day of our online Richmond conference. We will expect you all tomorrow for our final day of talks. Thanks, Mr. Alastar. Next talks tomorrow will be focus on social and emotional competences, and English is a differential value for your school transformation. Have a great evening. Thank you for your time, and see you tomorrow.
Take care, everybody. Thanks again.